I'm a pastor here in Greensburg, and I don't know if you've noticed, but in Greensburg and the surrounding areas, churches and church leaders right now don't have a great reputation. Let's be honest, though. The leaders have deserved it and earned it with all of the scandals and the turmoil and the things that seem to be going on. Because I believe that it's absolutely important that we realize that bad choices are made at every single level in society. And not only that, but bad choices that are made affect and infect society in ways that we don't even realize. So it is absolutely crucial that we learn as leaders and as people in our community that we make good choices, and we should understand that there are consequences when we don't make good choices. That's a key piece of moral belief that I think that we can all agree on. So whether or not you believe like I believe, that is something that I think you would agree with.
Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum.
When I was a teenager, I remember very vividly, I wanted to go to a party that a friend of mine was throwing, and I was under the impression it was going to be a small party, but I think as all high school parties tend to do, it tended to grow and explode and get bigger than I realized. So what I did is I convinced my dad to drive me, because I wasn't old enough to drive yet. I convinced my dad to drive me to this party. All of the parenting questions came in that need to come in a situation like that. Are the parents going to be home? Well, yeah, the parents are going to be home. Is there drinking involved? No. Why would I ask to go to a party where there was drinking involved? Is it going to be civil? Oh, yes, absolutely. This is a party that you would approve of. So my dad agreed under those conditions, and he drove me out to this person's house. And I remember very vividly pulling up in front of that house, and the scene was dramatically different than I was imagining in my head, because there were drunk teenagers sprawled out in the lawn, people hanging from trees, loud music bursting from the house, and all the obvious signs that there were no parents anywhere involved in this process. My dad pulls up to the house, and I remember he is facing the side of the car that the house is on, and he looks over and he sees this scene unfold. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm thinking, oh great, I'm dead meat now, and I am going to get killed over this. And I remember my dad stopping in that moment, turning and looking at me, and right before he chewed me out, right when I thought the moment that he was supposed to just unload on me was, he taught me one of the most valuable lessons that I could ever learn about that situation. He looked at me, he smiled, and he said, "You can go if you want to." He gave me a choice. See, I had a choice. He had already educated me my whole life on the consequences of making bad choices. He had poured into my life the realization that this would not be a wise situation for me. He had set all the groundwork, and then when we got to the place, rather than chewing me out and just tearing into me in that moment, he gave me the opportunity to make the choice that I needed to make. Man, that party was a blast. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I did not go to that party. We drove on and we drove home, and it was for there in that moment solidified in my mind that the best choices that I can make are the most informed choices that allow me to stay in control. You can force me to do things, but let's be honest. Am I going to learn best being forced to do things, or am I going to learn best if you were to educate me and then allow me to make the choice? I struggle with this all the time. I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to teach my kids to understand that you shouldn't do that, not just because I said so, but because there is reason behind it, and my no has a reason. If I just give you the no that says because I said so, you haven't learned anything and it doesn't amount to anything. And then later in life, when someone's not telling them those things and they get to make the choices on their own, they won't know why they should choose the things that they should choose, because I didn't teach them the why behind my no. A couple of weeks ago, I introduced you to my friends at My Choice Medical Clinic here in Greensburg, and I absolutely love what they're doing here in Greensburg. But the medical clinic is not all that they have going on. In fact, they have other departments in their organization, one specifically being My Choice Education, where their goal is to go into public schools and private schools and other things to educate teenagers and people on how to make good choices that are informed and what it means to make an informed decision. This is something that I really believe in and that I really, really like. So I'm going to let them kind of explain a little bit behind what it is that they're about.
So My Choice Education, we focus on what we like to call holistic health education. And so what that looks like is there's 5 areas of human development commonly known as physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual, or morals, however you want to look at that. And the important thing to understand is although those 5 areas are different, they're unique to each individual person, they're all connected. So there's no separating out our emotions from how we're affected physically. There's no separating our intellectual side to our social life. And there's no separating out all of that to our moral outlook on life. And so what we try to do is we go into schools, public and private, we go into social service agencies, we try to work with prison systems, anywhere that will honestly have us, we will teach there. And we try to teach people to, first off, value themselves, second off, understand who they are holistically, and thirdly, understand how relationship and sexual choices can impact them holistically and what that looks like in more detail.
There's 2 different ways that you can go about being an educator. And so me being an educator in the prison and then having an education team that teaches teenagers in this area and the surrounding areas alike, there's 2 different ways that you can go about it. You can either say, A, I am going to just come in and dump my knowledge on them and let them know this is what's right, this is what's wrong, this is what you choose. Or we can go in and we can create an environment that says, yes, this is what's right and this is what's wrong per se, but get them to make the decision of what's right and what's wrong. Present them with the facts, yes, but allow that to stir up in them these thoughts about, okay, if I'm put in this situation, this is what would be best for me. This would not be the best decision for me, and allow them to come to that conclusion. I really feel like rather than just knowing the answers for a test, so to speak, just to pass the class, just saying what the teacher wants you to say might not resonate with the student as much, but getting them to a place where they come to the conclusion for themselves of, hey, although this seems like it would be the decision I would want to make, I know that that could result in X, Y, or Z, and I don't want X, Y, or Z. I want A, B, and C, so I'm going to choose this, although it might not be what I feel in the moment. So I think creating this environment of allowing the students to be teachable and recognizing the fact that they have intellect, they have the ability to come to conclusions for themselves is something that goes miles beyond just the yes or no, the do's and don'ts of typical everyday teaching. Well, we can't forget the fact that myself and even people older than me, we were once teenagers, and we were there making sometimes right decisions and, if we're honest with ourselves, more often the wrong decision. So we can't forget the fact that we were once where they are. And so to have a little bit of empathy, to have a little bit of compassion on them, and to also step into their shoes, because times are different, relationships are different, society is different, and are we creating that environment that I once talked about that is going to empower them to make the best possible choices? So yes, we were teenagers at one point. How do teenagers think nowadays? What's going through their minds? What are they interested in? What do they want to do with their lives? And let's encourage them and let's build them up so that they can be the best possible person that they're striving to be. When the older generation, the younger generation both sees the city of Greensburg as this is my city, well, I want my city to be the best possible city that it can be. So whether that means that I'm a teenager making good choices in school so that I get good grades, so that the school's reputation, not only my reputation, but the school's reputation is good, let alone the adults who are in the workforce or even are retired and are making just little life decisions and choices every single day. Is this bettering me and the people around me or not? And I think that's where we can come together and realize that the choices we make do matter. And so that's the bridge that kind of, it connects the 2 generations. Older people and younger people, your choices matter. And your choices don't just matter for yourselves, but for the society around you. So to be honest, we deal with a lot of different school districts. We are heavily present in the Armstrong and Butler counties. We're starting to kind of make our way up into Indiana County, and obviously Westmoreland County is 100%. We have so many schools lined up for Greensburg. We would love to get into your school. So if you're seeing this, you know someone in the Greensburg school districts, private or public, give us a shout out. We would love to have a sit down conversation with you. But what's interesting about those conversations is when I make connection with a new school and I tell them what we teach, how many people we have available to teach, how many options they have as far as curriculum, they're blown away. And the number one question I always get is, yes, this all sounds wonderful, but how much does this cost? And the beauty of that is that it's free. We do this as a free service. Just like our medical clinics, we want to offer this as a free service. This is not something we want you to feel obligated to pay for. We feel like this is information that needs to be in the classroom, and we would love to do that on your behalf. We would love to come in and give the teachers a break and allow us to come in and be the voice for a while, because sometimes a new face, information like this settles differently than with the teacher that they've been seeing every day throughout the school year. So if this is something that you're interested in, this holistic health curriculum that we've talked about, definitely give us a shout out. You can contact us through our website, www.educatemychoice.com.
So there it is, guys. Not only do they have the medical clinic here in Greensburg, but also the My Choices education department that is looking to get into the Greensburg schools and the areas around here. So help them out. If there's someone out there watching that has connections in some way, why don't you check out their website, contact them. Great organization doing some great things. Love what's happening in Greensburg. Hey, thanks for watching so much. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, share it with as many people as you can. And remember, this is my city, Greensburg.